And welcome to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Kubal. Today I have with me two very special guests, returning guests, Ben Shakeman. Ben, how are you today?
I am fantastic, Daniel. I am very excited. How are you?
Oh, I'm stoked. And everybody knows I'm like a collector of people, whether they're authors, creatives, or podcasters. So I'm really excited that we actually have David Hensley on with us. David, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty great.
Awesome,
It's
awesome. David, you've been on my list for a while, so I'm even though this is like, not necessarily like a one-on-one interview, it still feels good to get you on and, get to talk to our audience today and, let them see you, some of your works and things like that as well and, see what your story is about in our anthology. So thank you so much for joining us.
thanks for having me on, man.
Anytime, anytime. Well, guys, we're going to talk a bit today about our shared anthology. So we have 18 authors, 17 stories for our anthology, Arcane Awakenings. And Ben and I have done this a few times, so I think we'll actually just talk real quick about like kind of like how we started the anthology essentially. And I blame Ben because we were doing Ben's last book. We had done like a live launch for, and it was like we started talking, and I interviewed Ancient Gibbler after I interviewed Ben. We had like a one-on-one on my channel and everything. And that was Let Sleeping Gods Lie, right, Ben?
Sorry, no. We
No.
were. It was the release party for My Brother's Keeper, where we
Oh,
had
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you, me, Andrew, Michael. It
Totally.
was and Triple B.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. The big BB. Yeah, I totally forgot about that because I think I've had you a couple times. So, but we started talking, and Ben wrote My Brother's Keeper 5 out of 5 for me, easy, and it got me thinking about a lot of things. And I kept seeing everybody, do this whole anthology thing. And after we got done, I was like, hey, what do you think about doing this? And it was really cool because Ben's like, yeah, I would consider that, especially depending on, like who, we could get and things like that. So we kind of lightly touched on it. And then what do you think, Ben? It was like maybe like several weeks went by, like 4 or 6 at least, that kind of thing. And then I don't know what it was. All of a sudden, Alan and I think, had our other interview, Alan Silverwood, our editor, and I was like, wait a minute. I think the two of like between the three of us, especially with Ben and Alan, that we could, make this thing happen. So we started to talk about theme. I had an okay theme, and much like Ben does, I give him something and he makes it better, which is great for us. So I was like, hey, how about this? He's like, well, let's do this Arcane Awakenings theme. And I tell this story again on here because it was like Alan and Ben were like talking about this back and forth in our shared like core team chat. And some people from our team probably don't know this, but I was like freaking out. I was like, this is so cool. And I just remember like I couldn't do anything because I was with my son and I don't know if I was nap trapped or what, but like 40 minutes goes by and I can see them talking about this amazing theme and develop it together with these great ideas. And I was freaking out. And by the time my wife relieved me, I was like, yes, 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 like let's do this thing. And I had already had like a story in mind and things. So I thought it was an amazing idea. Ben, do you mind just sharing with our audience here what that amazing idea was?
Do I mind? I've been waiting to do that, Daniel. I always happy to talk about the theme because it's a great one. So, like
It's cool.
for anyone watching that is not already involved in the anthology, because I see some fantastic folks whose names you will recognize when we start talking about the other authors in the anthology in the chat. But for themes, you have to consider carefully that the theme is broad enough to allow people to write a story in various ways, but specific enough that it ties everything together. And Daniel's right. Daniel had a cool theme that I originally agreed with. We said we were going to do urban mythology because like spooky alleys and like wasn't that cool? And I've told you that this podcast, I'm literally walking around in a Sephora at the Holyoke Mall with my partner, and like we're talking about this stuff, and I'm messaging, and I'm like, you know what? I love it. I love Halloween. My partner is like the biggest spooky month person on the planet, but like I kept thinking to myself, I what if this is too, because we kept talking about all of the authors that we wanted to invite to the anthology, and I said, what if the authors think that it's too restrictive, that Halloween is like too specific of a thing? And so, like, for a couple of you, our authors will have Halloween themed stories that also fit with the theme of Arcane Awakenings. So it's like you get a little bit of a 2-for-1. But I'm literally messaging on Facebook on my phone to Daniel and Alan while I'm walking through all the makeup testers and stuff. Like, what if, and hear me out, what if the theme was about the start of magic? What if the theme was about the origin stories of either the main characters in these tales or the world that they're in? Because almost no one does this. And I will like, not gonna die on that hill, but I'll fight real hard. Like, I don't remember many. I'm a big urban fantasy reader, especially like a lot of classic urban fantasy, and when the magic starts or the very start of the journey isn't isn't there. We're introduced to the characters mid-career. The magic in the world has been established for years, whether it's out in the open or whether it's hidden world, it's been there for a long time. And so, like, this idea that we're focusing on the birth of magic, the origin stories of these characters, instead of like, the analogy I always make is they're not already an established wizard for hire in Chicago, and so yeah, Arcane Awakenings is about the start and the birth of magic, or the beginning of a journey rather than the middle or the end of it. So it's really got this fresh feel to it.
And that actually, thank you, Ben, leads us perfectly, into what we're going to discuss here now. Before we do our cover reveal, I'm going to make you guys anticipate and wait a little,
And
like we had to. But this like we've talked about this on several other podcasts, Ben, Allen, and I. And it is interesting, So then we had I just went over this list of amazing authors, and it was so hard to pick because we're like, all right, let's each do let's bring five first and then kind of go from there. And it was really difficult. And like we had people that said, they were interested, and then a couple people said yes to me, and then I had people that were like, oh, you know what, I want to so bad, especially when we put that theme in there where we changed it. They're like, no. And then I had a few people say, I'm just too slammed with projects right now, particularly indie authors. So we had to, we had some openings and stuff. And I had some people that were on my list, David, who, I weren't quite there. So then I'm like, wait a minute, like we got, some other people that we can, fill in and stuff. And, like David and I actually started talking on TikTok, because me and Ben and Alan were trying to make sure, we had as equal of representation as we could. We had so many male authors say yes right off the bat. So many other authors, I had a couple friends who were like, I'm just really slammed and stuff. Whether they were from Bain or Canon Publishing, wherever they were, and it was really difficult. So we almost had to kind of halt ourselves a little. So I had talked to several authors, and they were like, well, how about H.Y. Gregor, Charlie Cox, that kind of thing. So I messaged Charlie, and actually she messaged Dave first to say, hey, is this legit? Do Dan, stuff like that. So Dave and I started talking. And then when we had somebody back out, Ben, from my list, who was like, I'm just too slammed, I'm really sorry. I'm like, no big deal. I was like, hey, David, what do you think? Do you think you could write urban fantasy? So, David, do you mind just telling us a little bit, like what you were kind of thinking when I asked that, and maybe what you thought of, in terms of the theme and how, because you were like, I got a story that I think would fit that perfectly. Do you mind just telling us a little bit about that from your perspective?
Sure. So I had was just doing some due diligence for my friend, and then he was then all of a sudden it's, hey, you do you have a story, or what do you think about writing that? I was like, I mean, I've mostly been writing like post-apocalyptic sci-fi and like military sci-fi. I'm like, I've got some urban fantasy stuff. Like I gotta, like the story I was thinking of was like one of the first things I wrote for publication. I gave it to my wife. She read it and was like, this is terrible. Don't submit it. I was like, but it's a good story. Like, I mean, the bones are good. Like, obviously the story needs work. And I was really seriously considering repurposing it. And then I remembered that I had something even better, which is, instead of Baba Yaga, it's Bubba Yaga. which was totally inspired by some lunatic in a tabletop miniatures forum that I'm in, like on a tabletop group on Facebook, had taken an Airstream and put chicken feet on it and was like, I give you Baba Yaga's hut. And I was like, well, that's got to go in a story somewhere. And so that's how I kind of came to my story, 9 Days in October.
Uh, just to be clear, to add credence. So I think I was probably one of the first people in the team to read David's story, and it was very good, very entertaining. But I will say, and when we get to the cover reveal, I have a super secret story to tell about my partner's reaction to the cover and specifically David's story when we get there. So like just put a pin in that as a thing for later.
So I have to mention this, David, because when you and I were discussing, sorry, I had to look up the author because I feel bad. I just discovered their work about 6 months ago. So when you told me, like your idea for your story, I was like, oh my gosh, this feels a lot like Lilith St. Crow and like her type of like vibe for urban fantasy. And I was like, oh, like the start of it. And like, I thought, that is like absolutely perfect because we wanted really unique stories, really unique voices. We were really striving. Like I had a friend, he goes, how come you didn't ask me? And I'm like, I didn't know that you wrote urban fantasy because he's just about to like publish and stuff. And I felt so bad because I was like, I didn't know. Like more people should tell me that, right? But I was like, at the same time though, when he sent me his, his stuff, and it's great, don't get me wrong, but like there's some people in this anthology, Ben and myself, that are, I think are his work's more similar. And, I was writing a story for this anthology trying to not be like Ben's My Brother's Keeper. My other story, and me and Ben shared anthology with some of the Bald and Balding crew for our Rings of Adventure anthology. I'd say my story is more like Ben's, like My Brother's Keeper. So I was like, I got to make sure I pick a different character, and different feel. So we were really trying to strive for, uniqueness in voice and, characters and stuff. And so when I read yours, I was like, oh man, this is awesome because this is exactly what we were talking about. Fit the theme really well. It was very unique, I feel like, in the storytelling and the character's perspective. So I felt like it was absolutely perfect. And we actually mentioned this, David, on another podcast. I can't remember which one, Ben, because I've done so many on my own now. And thanks for mine. But like, and I've been talking about the anthology and some of, the authors here in the chat. But like, I was like, it was serendipitous, David, that like that happened because I feel like your story fits so perfectly like into the anthology and exactly what we were looking for. So I'm really glad that Charlie was checking with you first because I hope everybody knows by now, I was hacked in October and it was like crazy time. So I think even Ben at one point, is this really you? But yeah, I'm so glad, David, that worked out and that you decided to trust us, in Ben's theme. Because man, is that a great story, and I cannot wait for people to check it out. But do you guys we want to kind of get going a little bit towards the cover? So I know, so we set a hard deadline at 7:30, but I do want to talk a little bit about, really just like what our goals were before we get there. And one of the main goals for us, and Ben can attest to this, I hope David can too, for our secondary like main goal. So we had two goals. One was to provide you guys a product that was well crafted, well edited, 100% human made, and all those like types of things. But we also really wanted to ensure that you're getting something special for the Kickstarter. We were trying to keep costs down, but not at cost to you. We wanted to make sure everything was done very efficiently, but also with the best end product in mind. So that's been our goal. And our goal is to get this to feel like a community. And one of those is to make sure really that we're story David and Ben and anthology today, feel like we care about them because we do over story. It's been so great, I think, to build a community, particularly on and on social media to, really band together, because we've had people have some amazing things. J.M. Sully just won an award, and to be able to share those things. David Green just got another book deal, multiple book deal. So, to be able to spread those things has been really awesome, and to be able to share, in each other's, misfortunes at times, but also, the triumphs. It's just been really cool. And, that's been my main goal, is to make sure that our authors really enjoy the process, because Ben and I have discussed this. We really want this one, to have a super big impact. My goal is to do one per year, particularly for urban fantasy. And we really want authors like David and everybody else, to come back and to really feel like, we have their best interests at heart, because we really do. And, I want you guys to understand, as the audience too, is that, we're really trying to ensure that we're getting the best product, which is why, but pure critique, I had David critique mine, I had J.M. Sully critique mine, and I had Ben critique mine. And I took like all the suggestions. Like, it was really difficult to take all three people's amazing suggestions, and hone them. I'm the rookie of the group, along with Pepper L. Willis. So she is co-authoring with her husband, Jason J. Willis. So don't worry, guys. I'm not feeling any pressure with this group, because I'm just kidding. A little bit. You guys, it's amazing, because if you guys look at our author thumbnails, all right, just take a minute, check out David's, check out Charlie's, check out anybody's, check out Ben's, for crying out loud. And it was really difficult, because I could only fit 3 products or 3 books on each thumbnail for each author. And it was very difficult, because you got people like H.Y. Gregor, John Osborne. You have so many people like with so many products and so many amazing products. And it really made me, really feel like we're presenting you guys with the best possible product. And, it really, I think, speaks to the experience, behind this anthology, whether or not it's Ben, myself, or Alan. Like, we're really trying to listen to everybody. Ira Brand's done an amazing job helping us out with different things. Charlie Cox, David, Charlie, Robert, John, Chris, Amy, like, you name it, everybody's contributing in some way, sharing, some shape or form, and helping us out. So it's been a great community effort. And I really, appreciate everybody helping us out with those things. And I'm so excited to read the rest of the stories this week that were not in my peer critique group, and, be able to, start to, sell you guys a little bit more on individual authors within the anthology. David, Ben, anything to add? I'm getting antsy. I'm like ready to go. I know we got to talk though, Ben, just real quick, if there's anything there. And then I want to talk about the process of the cover, because you've done an amazing job with our company. But anything to add there before we kind of talk about the cover, design and the process?
I'd like to add, like, anthologies aren't for the faint of heart. Like, if you don't like the idea of talking to other people, you probably shouldn't work on an anthology unless it's like really geared towards the introverted author. I feel like, the good news is the core team. So like the most important thing is that we have a core team, and that it isn't just one person, because like one person, I feel like, would lose their minds trying to corral 18 authors. And having a group of people to kind of make sure it all gets done is super helpful. But like the level of communication, I think, in this whole process, and David, definitely weigh in on whether I'm full of it or not. But I think the the level of communication that we've kept up during this whole thing is very high, and very we've gone for lots of information that's relevant at the times that we need it, asking questions to get the answers only when we need them. So like, it's not just a bunch of noise coming through. We've tried to be very intentional with the asks that we've given the authors.
Yeah, like the comms on this has been fantastic. I solo edited 2 anthologies for 3 Ravens, back to back. The first one was because I was like, I don't want to say I got bamboozled, but I kind of got bamboozled. The second one I foolishly pitched to Hillbilly at 3 Ravens, and he was like, sure, run with it. And then I found out what a heavy lift, assembling, authors. And then, because we also did an open call and had like 75 stories come dropping in, and have to sift through 75 stories. So like, this has been great to be back on the participating end of things. And just there's like a whole team involved in, requesting stories and going through stories, and then feedback too. Because I'm like I had some goofy, you know, AI stuff I put together just as a picture of the Airstream trailer, and like I think I dropped it in the Discord, and I think Ben was like, "Hey man, we really want to make sure we're not going we want this to be 100% human and not AI." And I was like, "Oh, my bad," and like no problem, very easy to just delete that and steer clear of that. But it was expectations were communicated clearly up front, and not in a way that made it like I didn't feel like scorned or overcorrected or something. I was like, oh, there's the boundary, great, I can work within these boundaries very easily.
I did appreciate that, by the way. And like, that's the other thing is like, we're all professionals here. Like, whether you've published 0 books or 15 books, everyone involved in the anthology has been extremely professional, very easy to work with. Yes, we're all like neurodivergent raccoons stacked in trench coats, but like, everyone's been good about getting us what we need when we need it, just as we've been getting people what they need when they need it. So yeah, professionalism is running high on this on this process.
And again, that was like a main goal, right? Like from the start, Ben Allen and I were like, well, how do we, present things in a way, that makes you guys feel that this is being taken seriously, that, any concerns you have or, any issues you have, whether they're with the anthology or not, like I've had people say, like my car, broke down, like, I'm really sorry I can't make it to the live, whatever, like, or whatever our first one was, or our first meeting, right? I'm like, hey, no big deal. I recorded it, sent it off. We did notes, like no big deal. And I think, it really comes down to, being treating people like people because they are, and then, really trying to make people feel valued. And we're really hoping that, one of our main goals was to, make everybody feel valued in the process. And there were times, where like, I've had somebody be like, hey, I want to make a suggestion, to like me or Ben or Alan and be like, we don't want to step on toes. And we're like, we're not saying the core team knows everything because we don't. Like Alan comes with a bunch of experience, from Kickstarter, but it's different because it's comics. Now, not to say that that doesn't translate really well, but it's been nice that like Ira Brand, for instance, or Charlie or somebody's like, or David, sometimes you'll ask a question. I'm like, ooh, never thought of that, and I teach history and social studies, and I think natural culture diffusion is the way to go. And I hope that people know I just don't have an ego. And if you have a better way of doing it, I want it done that way. So when Ben's like, hey, I think, this is a really good theme, I'm like, you know what? That's a really good theme. Or if he's like, or anybody's like, hey, really try to take this suggestion to make your story better. Like, I'm going to look at it and, really try to make those suggestions. So, and those changes. And I think that, overall, I think that's really added to this product. And I really want our audience to know that, and I hope that I know you'll see the professionalism because I was just texting Ben and Alan earlier and I was like, listen, when we're talking about editing this anthology, or a story versus editing another one, like no offense to anybody, but like I just feel at the level of professionalism here, it's totally different than just getting a story, like a rough draft from, the first draft or, whatever. Because a lot of people we ask, to do at least one peer critique edit, within the group or, get somebody, who's in the community. And I mean, every story I've read, I'm like, damn, this is really good. and I've been really impressed and really proud. And, Ben did a lot to help me realize, that like that was our goal, and we really want the best possible stories and the best possible outcomes, to match the theme. And I'm glad that Ben and Alan said, Dan, wait, let's not be too restrictive with this theme. And I think that was like the best thing. I might not always have the best ideas, but I really feel people, feel that I'm hearing them. So when Ben and Alan are like, hey, let's give people, more freedom because we want unique stories and, we'll make sure that they match the theme. And, we had a lot of really good talks about that. And I think that, people are going to get, like Ben said, I think you're going to get a really unique anthology out of this because I really don't know, another anthology in particular, or much urban fantasy that deals with this type of theme. So I do agree with you, Ben, there. And like I agreed right from the beginning. I wish I had, like the little watch, a smartphone watch, and I could have just been typing away with my son. But my phone was so far. I could see the messages. But yeah, I think it was absolutely amazing idea. And I don't know. So far, I feel like everybody's really enjoyed the process and the theme. Everybody we talked to is like, "Oh, that's a really cool theme," which leads us, Ben, to the cover. Do you mind just giving us a quick rundown on who we went with, why we went with them, and maybe some of the things we tried to do with that cover?
David, he keeps asking if I mind. So we decided, again, talking about the best quality cover for the cost, because it's hard. As independent authors, we understand what it is to look for a quality cover and a cover artist while not breaking the bank. And could we have asked our community for thousands of dollars for a Chris McGrath cover to be the most urban fantasy it could ever be? Yes, we could have done that. But the reality is, we were not trying to make an unfundable Kickstarter. We want these stories to get made. And so I recommended that we use Miblart, which is Mibble Group. And they are in Ukraine. They are a group of very talented artists, and they do not use AI. They are human creatives and illustrators. And one of the things that we wanted, or we agreed, because like there's no one way to do an urban fantasy cover, but my favorite urban fantasy covers are hand illustrated covers. Chris McGrath is a little interesting in that it's like he does a mixed method where it's photographs then like changed artistically, and it ends up looking like this really interesting painting. And like but that's his hallmark. For urban fantasy in general, illustrated covers, I think it's some of the most fun that you can have. Illustrated covers are expensive, and Miblart has a very affordable for the high quality product that you get. And I've worked with them multiple times. The company Get Covers that does budget covers that like most of my covers are, but then they did a fully illustrated cover for my book Let Sleeping Gods Lie, and I loved it. And then when Daniel was like, "Who are we getting for the cover?" and we kept looking at these other artists, and I said, "Why aren't we just going to go with Miblart? Because if we care about cost, like that's the right choice." And the experience has been phenomenal. The one trick of it is the company is in Ukraine, so it's not usually English as first language. They all speak. Everyone speaks English. The project managers that you work with, but sometimes things can get lost in translation a little bit. So it became my job, because I volunteered, because I've worked with them so much, to coordinate the creation of the cover. From the original idea, which was we have 17 fantastic stories, and this was Daniel's idea. So this was Daniel's idea that I once again said, "Okay, Daniel, but what if we did something a little bit different than your idea?"
So true.
So Daniel's idea was that we would have an item representing each of the stories, kind of like floating on this like magical swirly background. And yes, David, I did a yes, and I said yes. And what if all of those were put into a cohesive cover with a main character? Because what's a hallmark of urban fantasy covers is the main character on the front. And like, that's the big thing that separates urban fantasy from paranormal romance, is whether or not you can see like the bared chest of the person on the cover. So ours is an urban fantasy cover. This one has more clothes on it than not. And that's very, very easy to tell. But yeah, I said, look, we also want to make sure that this reads very urban fantasy. You want to look at the cover and you want to know that this is an urban fantasy anthology. And like the swirly stuff is cool, but it doesn't necessarily scream urban fantasy. So what if we did it like this? And Daniel, true to form of having zero ego and loving other people's ideas, he said we're absolutely going to do that. And that was the idea for the cover. So when we do get to it in a minute, the cover is a fantastic cohesive design around a central main character who I was privileged and blessed for Daniel to recommend to the group that the main character from my story be the main character on the cover. And then around them are at various pieces, and we can point them all out for you because we want to tell you about all of the authors in the anthology. Around the character are those different items representing each of the stories, and so good.
Alrighty, well, I think it's time. Before I forget, and I should have looked up how to say the illustrator's name, but because we went with Miblart and one of the thank you, Nikki McCormack, by the way, if you're out there. I was emailing almost 800 people to be like, hey, can you share this between Saturday and today for sharing for tomorrow? And she's like, hey, who did the art? So who did your cover? So the illustrator's name is Alexi, and then the typography designer is Ivan at Miblart. So thank you both so much. You guys do amazing work. And yeah, do we need a drum roll? Should we pretend a drum roll?
I feel like we'd blow out people's speakers if we drummed on the microphones.
Yeah. All right, let me just open this one up again. Do you want to do front cover first or full cover? I was kind of thinking full cover.
Yeah, do the full cover. Do the full cover, and then maybe if you do the front cover, we can highlight each of the author's items.
All right, people. So this is going to be Arcane Awakenings and Urban Fantasy Anthology's cover. Again, thank you, Ben, for all your hard work. Oh, man. Oh, man. There it is. And there it is, folks. Can you guys see it, Ben and David?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see it.
You want to zoom in a little bit?
I was going to say, it did that last time. Did it actually zoom in this time?
No, but zoomed out.
Or did it zoom out? How about now? It's only going to let me do that.
Okay, that's it. That's all we get. That's fine.
Weird. Yeah, so I thought it turned out really, really well. In my mind, Ben, it looked really good. This looks way better. So I'll take you guys' comments.
Who was it? Was it Jason? Jason Willis? When I put, so the way that designing a cover works is you send the artist your idea, and then they produce an initial sketch. And apparently our idea was good enough that the artist, was it Alexi? Alexi must have just like mind melded with us across the distance, because the black and white sketch of this was nearly perfect when it came in. And Jason was like, oh my God, this is so much better than I even thought it was going to be. And we were like, yeah, I don't want to admit that that's true, but yeah, this is that I thought it was going to be great, but holy hell, they just killed it in one.
Dave, how about you?
Well, I'm a weirdo in that, I understand that the cover's job is to draw the eye, so that somebody will pick the book up and look at the back, and then the back copy, of course, gets them, is the sale. So I didn't feel like I didn't have a dog in the fight, but the initial artwork was so good, I was like, I don't want to change anything. I love it the way it is. I have no comment except, yes, that's great. Please color it so I can see all the details.
Yeah, that was the nice thing is for anyone who isn't involved with the anthology, this was such a lovely collaborative process, because I would post the draft into our channel in the Discord and say, okay, here's my feedback, because there's always feedback. It's it's her left fist isn't quite proportional enough. This is a little funky, but overall, it wasn't just the bones that were good. It was like, it really was damn near ready to go. But then like everyone else would be like, yeah, and here's a thought here and here's a thought there. And I would collate those together and I would send them off to the designer who would then incorporate it into the next draft. And like, this was probably the fastest iteration of covers that I've ever done, because usually like I'm going to be 6 to 10 revisions deep in a cover before I figure out everything. But because we had so many eyes on it, we were like, I don't know, 4 revisions and basically before we could move on to typography. It was a great process. Also, like even just the typography and the font went around with like 4 different fonts before we all. Oh,
And I have the problem where it looks so good off the bat. I agree with Dave where I was like, oh, and then it looked so good. Even the typography, I had to like slow down and it was right, or Charlie was, or somebody would, or Jason would say something, whoever would say it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point. I'm like, yeah, and I had to go back and be like, never mind what I just said. Listen to what they just said, because like again, yeah, it was really amazingly done the first time. And I forget who said the green, if it was like Charlie, Ira,
that was Ira.
or Jason. Ira, thank you.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was Ira
Ira.
because it was blue,
Oh
and
man,
then
it
Ira
was
was
blue.
like,
Yeah,
"What if it were green?" And then like they colorized it like in Photoshop as a sample, and like
yeah.
I sent that back to Miblart, like, "Hey, make it green, kind of like this, but not like this." And they're like this, and we're like, yes, exactly like that. Okay, can I go? You want to bring up just the ebook cover, and I would love to point out each of the items and tell you a story about David's story from my partner's perspective. And I'm just gonna go down through the list and like we can point out where on the things they are. If you can't find it, you can just bring back the other
Yeah,
one.
sorry, it was just being weird. I'm just gonna have to go back the other way. That's fine.
That's fine. Okay.
There it is.
All right. So, first off, we've got our brand, and the nail holding the cloak closed is the old iron nail from our brand's story. The flip top lighter that's floating to the right of the character's head is Wes Cameron's. J.N. Selly is a 20-sided die that is right next to the 2 martini glasses that is Amy Sissels. If you look at the right hand side of the picture, there's 2 pieces of graffiti. One of which is the graffiti of it's a graffiti image of an death whistle. That's Daniels. Then the moon necklace that the character is wearing is Charlie Cox's. The brass knuckles are C. Thomas LaFollette. The Philosopher's Stone next to the D20 is J.S. Gold's. Above the mariachi skeleton is a different piece of wall art that is, above the Aztec death whistle is a mariachi skeleton that is Tal Goods. Who, by the way, Tal Goods from my other co-op. Shout out to Tal. Hey. And the cloak itself that the character is wearing is the Mantle of Arthur. That's for David Green's story. There is an ancient bound manuscript that is in the bottom right, bottom left. That is H.Y. Gregor's. And next to the old manuscripts are the creepy sailor doll, which is David Henley's, which I've got the story about. The floating book of shadows to the bottom right is John Osborne's. The mouse on the character's shoulder is mine. So both the main character and mouse on the shoulder are my story. The top hat is Alan Silverwood's, our editor and other author contributor. The Celtic stone that's actually a patch on that jacket, that is Jason J. Willis and Pepper Willis's. And then last but not least, there is a silver coin embossed with a mystical symbol that is a blood coin by for Robert York's story.
Sorry,
So
my,
good.
my volume was cutting out there. Did you already talk about Amy's matchy martini glasses?
I did. Yep, I did
Okay,
mention
sorry.
that the 2 martini glasses were for Amy
Perfect.
Sissel.
Perfect.
We lost David, but I'm going to tell the story because we're going to run out of time. So, I'm showing an early draft of this cover to my partner, Kat. And remember, we're going to bring this full circle. Remember how I said that Kat is like a big spooky month like person? They're a huge horror buff. And they said, "Is that Robert the doll?" You have to be
That's
careful
awesome.
drinking while I'm talking, Daniel. That's a dangerous maneuver you just made. So my partner, without prompting, stands next to me
crazy.
and says, "Is that Robert the cursed doll?" And I said, "Oh, you know Bobby?" And they go, "You call him Bobby?" I was like, "That's what it says in the story." And so I need you to understand that my partner has decided that there is the potential that our book is cursed.
Curse with good sales.
Yeah,
Ba-da-boom.
ha.
That is awesome. I remember you talking about a story that you couldn't tell yet till we did the cover reveal. I think it was on
It was that.
yeah, Amy and Shay's podcast. Okay, cliffhangers and cocktails, which you guys will be able to see really soon. It'll be released in a couple weeks. So that is really awesome. I was like wondering when that was going to come out because you had not told me
Yeah.
about that privately. So, and I love surprises. So actually, that's really awesome.
No, these are
That's super
fantasy
cool.
and sci-fi fanatic exclusives, Daniel.
Yeah, it's true. I always get the exclusive, guys. That's amazing. Well, I do have to say, Ben, like I really liked again, we talked about it before, and Ben guys was like, no, we could pick someone else's character. I was like, no, and he was like describing her to us and to me, and I was like, I feel like she should really be on the cover. And when I think of, no offense to anybody, well, when I think of urban fantasy, I think of like Mercy Thompson, and I love Atticus O'Sullivan, Kevin Hearn's main character. I love Harry, but like when I really think of the urban fantasy genre, I think of Sean and McGuire, right? I think of Kim Harrison. I think of like Jane Yellowrock, Faith Hunter. So I really was like, and I even think of like, in the Dresden Files, like Detective Karen Murphy. So for me, I'm like, I really see, women in urban fantasy being a really, really big deal, and being a symbol of what the genre has been about and really what it should be about. And I was like, nope, I really think that. So Ben was like, let's put it for a vote. And then we voted, and I feel like I won, not him, because look at this cover. So it was interesting, though, for us to help you with the process, though, Ben, of like, because I think somebody, or maybe it was you, Ben, were like, she's got to be like dirty, and actually seem like
Yeah.
she's gone through some stuff. And I thought like her ripped jeans and, this, smudges of dirt on her face and stuff, and her eyes too, like they nailed it. Like she's
Oh
been
my
through some
God.
stuff in your stories. I
Yeah,
thought they nailed it.
this is basically like an image from, so trappings aside, because obviously she's not wearing all of this stuff for the story. It's meant to be representative.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, by the end of my story, she and the mouse on her shoulder have been through some stuff. But like to your point though, I just want to point this out because again, you see in the little blue letters, forward by C.E. Murphy, who is
thank you.
like another like titan of urban fantasy, and like I am sure she would be like me because she's very like humble. Because when I asked her to do the forward, because I said, I need you to understand, I don't think that there's a better author to do the forward for an indie urban fantasy anthology than you. And she said basically like, well, I don't know why you want it to be me, but I'm not going to say no. Because like, again, the women on the cover, her first series is the Walker Papers, starting with Urban
Yep.
Shaman with Joanne Walker on the cover. And like, so what better person to be writing a forward for our anthology than the author of Urban Shaman? So I feel like this is perhaps an unconscious. It ends up being an unconscious homage to the great
Oh, I like that.
women writers of urban fantasy.
I like that a lot. Well, I think of women like Lindsay Baroque, or
Hmm.
like the list just goes on and on. So yeah, I agree. I guess yeah, I think for us it was super important for the core team.
Yeah.
I think in particular, to do that. And again, no disrespect to male authors,
No.
characters, anything like that. But just to be able to do that, I think as an aside, was really really cool. And every time I see this cover, like I'll have a bad day, or like yesterday, like I found out I like have a little bit of infection going on with the
Oh.
sinuses, and I was like texting you, Ben, and I got out, and I was like, I just kept looking. I was like, well, the cover reveal is tomorrow, and I kept looking at it, and I'll be at school, I'll be like, oh God, summer school, and then I'll see it, and I'll just like perk up. So I can't wait, people, because I'm redoing my basement, and like I have to move my desk or something because I really want that to be in the background frame. So I cannot wait for everybody to also open up to see what's inside, right? Because it is a book, and we've poured our heart and souls into this thing, and I really want people to understand that. But Alan comes with a lot of experience as well, and I'm so glad you suggested C.E. Murphy, Ben, because I was like, at the time I was kind of tapped, and I was like trying to think of people. I was like, I don't know, and we were really trying to find somebody symbolic, of like what we felt the themes were and things like that. So I think that was such a great suggestion. So glad she said yes. I know we were like, are you sure? but overall it was super super cool. So, and I love the way that like they put everything together with that on the cover, with the Urban Fantasy Anthology in green, Alan's there in white, and I love the foreword by C.E. Murphy in blue. I think it's such a good contrast there. Well, yeah, I don't think I could have been happier with the overall process, if I can be honest. You did a really great job, Ben. This looks amazing. I appreciate you taking it on too, because doing a bunch of the other things was just really, really, really difficult. And I just knew I tell my audience this because people ask me like, "Well, why'd you decide on a core team?" I'm like, "Because I'm only one person, and I only have so many ideas, and I naturally flow with people." Maybe it's from being a teacher. I naturally flow with people that give suggestions and feedback, and I really like the core team, or like Ira and I, we'll talk on Discord, and or like Saffron and I, in our other anthology, and just like I naturally do better with that cultural diffusion. So some people do better on their own. I don't. I do better with people. Ben, I don't think there's been a day that you and I haven't talked in this entire process about something, whether it's anthology related or not. So I mean, that just makes me feel like I'm not alone and dealing with even just my other stuff, with our other anthology, Rings of Adventure, that we're in, or just my own writing. So
Hmm.
I definitely feel like some people might do better in an anthology. Some people do better on their own, but you might do better in an anthology, guys. So something to consider. So I know we're kind of winding down on time here, Ben. Anything else that you kind of want to, let the audience know for good of the order before we kind of do the wrap up, talk about the pre-launch link and follows and stuff like that?
I think I'm okay just letting the cover stand on its own. Like it's so good. I've done a lot of covers at this point with various artists,
It's true.
and I am so thrilled with this. Also, I imagine that your wife is like, "You're talking to that Ben Shankman again, aren't you?"
All the time. I'm like, I just got to check with Ben on this. I'm like, I just got to ask Ben about this thing. She's like, okay. I'm sure she's like, Ben is not really Ben. Like, he's renamed a woman in his phone,
I'm
Ben Shankman
Yeah,
or something.
I'm your girlfriend in Canada.
yeah, exactly. That's like somebody asked me, they go, "Who are you talking to? Your wife?" I said, "My work husband." I go, "Is
Yeah.
that?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, "You guys are texting a lot." I said, "Well, our cover reveal is this week, so
Look,
so
it's my book bestie. I'm not
yeah."
like this is just happening.
Yeah, yeah, and I hope everybody sees it with the fruition of our labors and things. But I do have to mention, Ben. I know we're winding down on time. Before we kind of like close out and tell people where to go, I do want to mention that you and I actually have a live for your launch party for your next book. Is that okay if we give people the date, or do you
Oh
want
yeah,
to
yeah,
wait and
yeah.
just say?
No, we totally can. October 19th, right? I
Yep.
realize I said that like bad ADR just now. October 19th. So on October 19th, I am having, that's the release day, and we will be having a release party on this podcast for the fourth book in my first series, The Devil You Know. The fourth book is called A Little Death Among Friends. It's the ARC campaign is going now. So if you love that kind of stuff, go to my website and sign up. But otherwise, you're going to have to wait because I haven't even revealed the cover yet. But yeah, October 19th, stay tuned. We're going to have a great conversation about that whole series.
Yeah, and I guess I will just like leave the surprise for some of the guests that we'll have that will also be there, because we haven't done the thumbnail yet, and you never know, right? Like Ben and I are in, but sometimes people have stuff, so we'll wait till we get a little bit closer. But I did just want to plug that real fast. We had a really great chat with the last one with like Michael, Chris from Beard Book Beast, Michael from Author Adjacent, Andrew Givler. That was all of us, right? Forget anybody?
Michael, Bearded Book Beast, Andrew Givler,
Andrew,
you,
right?
me.
Okay,
That
cool.
Yeah, that was us. That
Cool.
was us.
So many lives at this point.
There's a
But yeah,
lot.
make sure you guys check out Ben's book. My Brother's Keeper, 5 out of 5 stars for me. By far, made me want to do this anthology. So if you guys could check that out. And then for me, Ben, it feels pretty good because I remember our first interview and at the end of like my third season or whatever. And it feels really good to be able to, do the live book launch, for the last book. So in this latest installment. So it feels really, really awesome. Kind of like full circle for me, particularly because we're doing the anthology and stuff. When you asked me, I was like, I'm just going to figure it out. I was like, I'll just tell everybody I'm busy that that time.
It's happening.
I literally already got I go, in case something happens that night, I go, I need you to babysit at that time for that like hour and a half. He's like, I'm fine. Cool. I was like, I'll buy you and my son a pizza and we'll be all set. So I got a backup plan for my backup plan. But I want to remind you guys can check out Arcane Awakenings, an urban fantasy anthology. You can go down to the description here. I'll edit it as soon as the live updates on YouTube, but you can find us on Kickstarter. Just search Arcane Awakenings. We've been doing a pretty good job, Ben, because when I looked yesterday, I was like, let me just see what the Google search looks like. Like if you search, guys, Arcane Awakenings anthology, we're like the first thing that pops up repeatedly. Like we've been really trying to get out there, and have people do that. So find us, please, follow us. September 13th is our launch date to go live. And yeah, we cannot wait for you guys to check out our stories. You can check us out on Shadow Stain Press. I've had people ask me, privately, like, hey, why are you doing that? I'm trying to get that as like the one-stop shop, not just for Arcane Awakenings, but all the other anthologies that I'd like to do for urban fantasy and just in general, fantasy, stuff like that. Hopefully one day sci-fi, who knows? So if you guys could check out that Facebook page, it's just a Facebook page for right now, but I'm trying to do that so that way you can just go to just 2 locations to get everything. And the author's been doing an amazing job sharing everything Arcane Awakenings involved on the Shadow Stain Press Facebook page. So please just, do us a favor. Follows don't cost anything. So shares also are really, really highly, appreciated. So, if you guys could continue to do that, we would really appreciate it. We really appreciate you guys checking us out. And we are so excited to get this anthology off to you guys. Ben, anything before we head out?
No, just we'll reiterate, follows are free, and see if you can get us from, I think 82 was the last time I checked.
Yep.
Let's see if we can get to 100 followers by the end of the
That'd be
week.
great.
Just like,
Yeah, that'd be great.
just share it around. The cover's gonna sell this Kickstarter. Like, who would not want to know what's going on in those pages?
And you will see a flood of people. Thank you, everybody. All like 800 people I emailed or message. You're going to see a flood of images, I guarantee you. And now we're going to share, like update everything on the Kickstarter and on the Shadow Stain Facebook page, all those kinds of things. So we can't wait. But thank you guys, everybody, for coming. And we will see you guys next time. Everybody have a great rest of the night. And as always, happy reading, my friends. See you guys.